I never planned to talk about this story publicly. Honestly, for a long time I wasn't even sure if I wanted to remember it. But life has a way of giving us lessons we don't ask for, and sometimes the only way to keep them alive is to share them. So here it is, my story about love, the kind that doesn't show up in movies or songs, but the kind that crawls into your life when you least expect it and changes the way you breathe. I'll start with the day everything began. It was late September, one of those evenings when summer still hangs onto the air, but the wind already whispers that the warmth won't last. I had just left the office, exhausted, frustrated, and honestly a little bit lost. I was 28, stuck in a job that drained me, living in an apartment that felt too quiet, and trying to convince myself that I enjoyed the comfort of being alone. My routine was embarrassingly predictable. Work, gym, home, sleep. The kind of life that felt safe but empty. And then she appeared, like a glitch in the universe, a sudden break in the monotony. Her name was Elena. I met her at a small bookstore cafe near my subway stop. I wasn't supposed to be there. I'd only gone inside because my phone died and I needed a place to send an urgent email from my laptop. She was sitting at a corner table, surrounded by open books. Her hair gathered in a loose knot that looked both careless and intentional at the same time. And she was laughing quietly to herself while reading. I don't know why that stuck with me. The way she laughed when no one was watching felt rare, genuine. A person who doesn't need an audience to enjoy life. I tried to ignore her. Really, I wasn't in the mindset for meeting anyone. But the universe has a stubborn sense of humor. When I sat down at the only available table, I realized it was directly across from her. And the moment I opened my laptop, she leaned slightly toward me and said, "You know this place has the slowest Wi-Fi in the city, right?" I remember smiling back, despite myself. That bad. Bad enough that you'll probably finish a book before your email sends. That sounds like torture. That depends on the book. And somehow, with that simple exchange, we slipped into a conversation that felt weirdly natural. We talked about books, work, coffee, cities we wanted to visit, things we missed, things we regretted. I forgot about my email. I forgot about the time. I forgot that I was supposed to be exhausted. Talking to her felt like inhaling fresh air after living underground for years. When the cafe closed, she stood up, gathering her things, and smiled at me like we'd known each other more than 2 hours. "Well," she said, "maybe I'll see you around." And then she left. I didn't get her number. I didn't even learn her last name. But walking home that night, I caught myself smiling at nothing like an idiot. I told myself it was just a pleasant conversation with a stranger. But something inside me had shifted, and I knew it. I went back to that cafe the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. For a week, I sat in the same spot, pretending to work, glancing toward the door every time I heard it open. I felt ridiculous, like some character in a predictable romance novel. But on the 8th day, when I'd almost convinced myself to give up, she walked in. Same loose knot in her hair, same easy smile, like she had never been gone. "You came back," she said. "I could say the same to you." She laughed. "Then I guess we're both predictable." And just like that, our second conversation began. And then a third, and a fourth. Eventually the cafe became our place, and the line between coincidence and intent disappeared completely. I learned things about her that felt like secret treasures. She was a graphic designer, passionate about art but terrified of failing. She loved rainy days because they made her feel less guilty about staying inside. She hated olives, loved dogs, collected postcards, and cried every time she watched Coco, even though she'd seen it 5 times. She wasn't perfect. She had fears, insecurities, habits that made no sense. But she was real in a way I didn't know people could be. And somewhere in all those conversations, I fell in love. Not the movie kind of love, the slow-motion glances, the dramatic confessions. Mine was quieter, like a sunrise you don't notice until you suddenly realize your entire world is filled with light. We started dating officially 3 months after we met. And those first months felt unreal. We cooked together, traveled to small towns, had late-night talks about everything and nothing, danced in the kitchen, argued about stupid things, and made up 5 minutes later. I learned her favorite tea, her least favorite song, the exact sound she made when she stretched in the morning. But love, real love, doesn't stay in the honeymoon phase forever. And that's where the real story begins. One evening, after almost a year together, we had our first real fight. The kind where silence feels like cold water and words come out sharper than they should. It started over something small. My long work hours, her feeling like I was drifting away. I told her I was doing my best. She said my best didn't include her anymore. I didn't know what to say. I felt attacked, misunderstood, tired. She left my apartment with tears in her eyes. I waited for her to call. She didn't. Days passed. A week, then 2. We texted a little, but the warmth was gone. Felt like talking through a thick wall. And slowly, fear began to creep in. The fear that I had lost her without even realizing when the moment happened. So one evening, when I couldn't take the silence anymore, I went to her apartment without warning. I knocked, heart hammering, not sure if she would even open the door. She did. She looked smaller somehow, tired, beautiful in a way that hurt. "Can we talk?" I asked. She hesitated, then stepped aside. We sat at her kitchen table like strangers. For a moment, neither of us spoke. And then she whispered, "I don't want to be the only one fighting for us." Something inside me cracked. I had spent my whole life running from vulnerability, closing doors before anyone could hurt me. But looking at her, seeing the pain I had caused by being distant without even realizing it, I knew I had a choice. Keep protecting myself, or open the door and finally let someone in. So I told her everything. My fears of not being good enough, my stress from work, my stupid instinct to shut down when things got hard. The truth that loving her terrified me because it made me vulnerable in ways I didn't know how to handle. She listened silently, tears falling silently onto her hands. Then she reached across the table and whispered, "I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to show up." That sentence saved us. It didn't magically fix everything. Love doesn't work that way. But we rebuilt ourselves slowly, carefully, choosing each other again and again. And every time things got hard after that day, we didn't run. We stayed. We talked. We learned. She once told me that love is not the way someone makes you feel. It's the way someone makes you grow. I didn't understand that before. I do now, because loving her made me better, more patient, more open, more willing to fight. Not against someone, but for someone. And today, as I'm telling you this story, she's sitting in the living room, sketching something on her tablet, humming quietly under her breath. We've been together 3 years now. We still argue sometimes. We still annoy each other. But every night, before we fall asleep, she reaches for my hand. And every night I hold it, grateful that she never let go of me when I didn't know how to hold on myself. So if there's one thing I learned, one thing I want you to take from this story, it's this. Love doesn't always arrive like a thunderstorm. Sometimes it walks into your life on a quiet September evening and sits across from you in a cafe with slow Wi-Fi. Sometimes you almost lose it before you learn how to keep it. But if you're lucky, love will stay long enough to show you who you can become when you finally let yourself be seen. That's the day I learned what love really means. And that's the story I'll never forget.